Hello, everybody. Welcome to Jen and Hannah talk about Syrvivor Syracuse Season 2 Snakes and Secrets, Episode 4 recap. Can you believe we're already at Episode 4, Hannah?
Nope. We've waited for this. We waited. It's been 11 months? Who's counting? Since we played Syrvivor, back in January, February, March, April. So it's been a long time, and I'm just excited to see it all come. It's weird to see it all come together, but welcome back, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I perfectly agree. And basically, I'm excited because we do have a special guest coming on soon who will probably come in about 20 minutes into this recap. So stay tuned for that. But before we get into the episode, I did want to say, yeah, it's really crazy to look back on, just because I think there are some things in this episode that I wasn't really aware of, that it's been like 10 months since those things have gone down. One of those things being the challenge, but we'll get to that. So before we talk about the challenge, there are a few things that we should talk about. And the episode basically starts.
Do you want to talk about the episode title first and how a poll went out on Twitter beforehand?
Sure, go ahead. Tell everybody.
So for tonight's episode, they had a fun promotional twist, and it was, they were like, what do you want this week's episode title to be? And they submitted a poll, and here were the three options. This will be interesting. This is my murder board. And this what you want, Luke? With 28% was, is this what you want, Luke? With 0% was, this will be interesting. With 72%, we have, this is my murder board being the title of the episode. So that gives you kind of an idea of what we're going into.
Thank you so much for that. No, yeah, and you're probably like, if you saw that title on the episode, you're probably like, what does this mean? What is happening?
I knew fully well when someone texted me, they're like, look at Twitter, or like, look at the, oh my God, look at that, Hannah. And I went,
I mean, the second I saw it, I knew what that was referencing to, but not everybody knew.
No, and not past. But we'll get to that. So let's go from the opening shot, Geneva. What did you see?
Yes. Well, I saw Derek, and Derek was talking about how he was chilling in his car 30 minutes before the challenge, and he talked about an interaction he had with Hannah and how she reached out to Derek to go idol hunting. And they went to the Mount Steps, which is where we found Erica's real idol and Hannah's fake for Mike, I believe. So just a lot of fun times at the Mount Steps. And, you know, he talks about that interaction about how he found an idol, an idol, and he opens up the idol and the idol clue and he reads it out loud. But he talks about a conversation he had with Mike. And Mike is like, I don't know if I should be telling you this information, but Erica actually has the idol on our tribe. And Derek's like, who told you this? And he said, Erica. And Mike told Derek about how Erica, Megan, Hannah, and co went idol hunting. And so Derek also mentions all these concerns he has. Did they wait for Derek?
Derek's like, I went idol hunting with Hannah. So let's break this down. So first of all, the Mount, if you don't know Syracuse University, there is this big hill. There's lots of hills in Syracuse, and there's this mount. It's like Mount Olympus. And on Mount Olympus are two freshman dorms, Flint Hall and Day Hall. Three of our cast members, Daisy, Andrew, and Addie, all lived on the Mount. I lived on the Mount my freshman year. I played this season as a sophomore, however. And so I knew that there's the drunk steps, which is the back way to the Mount. And then there's the Mount stairs, which are iconic. And that's where we see Erica's idol the Zeleny idol was planted and found. Before the season, I placed 2 idols around this area, the drunk steps, which the one that Mike found, and then the actual mount steps right across from the place where the actual Zeleny idol was placed. So I didn't go back to these places and like place that, like this was all preseason. And I think production was like, let's take advantage of this. This would be hilarious. So we see in this episode, the night, so Erica gets the idol. That night I call up Derek and I say, you want to go idol hunting? I'm feeling bad. I'm like, you know what? Because the day of, something that is important to mention is that the day of, as the 5 of us, of Zeleny, Addie, Austin, myself, Megan, and Erica are looking for this idol, Erica is saying, oh, like, watch out for Derek. Is Derek around here? I don't trust Derek. And then when she eventually does find the idol, she says, no one tell Derek. And the only other person not there is Mike. But Mike and Erica are close. So I say, Eric, nobody on this tribe wants Derek to know that Erica has the idol. So, you know what would be cool? Giving the guy who's destined to have a double idol a fake idol. And so he thinks that he has all these things, but one of them is fake. And that would have been so cool. So I get so excited. I'm like, hey, Derek, you want to go? Like, let's go look for the idol. And we naturally go to the Mount Steps. And I push him a little, and he does find the fake idol. And I think I'm excited. This is like fun. This was what I wanted. I wanted to go in the game. Like, this is just fun shit. This is not supposed to be serious, but he finds it. We go our separate ways. And then something cool to see 10, 11 months later is that Derek knew, like Derek figured it out right before this challenge. And the fact that all these people knew, right, that I made these fakes, that's not something, I don't know. Well, we'll see how this unfolds, but it was very cool to see this vlog from Derek and to see how if Mike hadn't spilled the beans about Erica's idol, Derek may not have known that he had a fake. Now, he did put the pieces together because, and I did too, the minute I saw that Erica had a tiki man, I proceeded, which I don't know if they'll include this, but I proceeded to go on Amazon, find the tiki man idols that they use for production and purchase that. And it gets to me in the span of week 4 and week 5. So we'll see if they include that next episode or not. But I was very aware that they were not the same. Mm-hmm. And Derek was as well. Good for Derek. So we put the pieces together with Mike, and now they all know. And now they're all like, huh, right? So that is the background about all of that, because I think it is more specific and reasons, right? I didn't, I think in retrospect, would like taking Derek, the only thing that implicated me to those fake idols was like, no one was going to be like, like find a fake and then go, oh, Hannah made it. The only thing that implicated me was the decision to take Derek there myself.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. But a couple things that I did also want to mention that Derek mentioned were his concerns. Right. So one of his concerns actually was, did they wait for Derek to leave and before going to search for the idol? So did they go intentionally to search for the idol without Derek? And so he was concerned about that. His second concern, as we know, was Hannah leading him to the fake idol. And just the fact that Hannah was present when they found the real idol, and then she went idol hunting with Derek. So he's like, why would she go idol hunting with me if she knew the idol was found? She clearly wanted me to find it and then brought me to, the place where her fake was hidden.
Also, I think something else that went through my mind is like, oh, I'll tell them Derek wants to go idol hunting. I'll just take him. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll just take him. But the fact that he found the fake and then he said that he found, right? Like that implicated me. But like I feel like after that 5 met, taking Derek, right, idol hunting to avoid the suspicion of him, right? I don't think I don't know. That was what was going through my head at the time, but definitely Derek's like, what? I thought we were.
Yeah, so he got suspicious. He's like, Hannah is playing the same tune to different groups of people. You can't be in alliance with everybody, Hannah. He really wants an explanation. I mean, and understandably so. I don't know.
Interesting. So what's that next after that?
Well, next is the most exciting part of the episode. No, I'm just kidding. But it's the title of the episode. So, you know.
Yeah. So week 4, we know the tribe swap is coming. So I decide, you know what? I'm going to give my viewership, I'm going to give the audience a little visual. I'm going to map it out like a CSI board. I'm going to draw all the connections between people and then point out like my view of the game. And this vlog ended up being, the setting up was like 17 minutes. And I kept it in case they just wanted to like, not that anyone would watch the entire thing. And then the actual vlog was like 30, 45 minutes. I think to Luke, it was 2 hours. So we'll see how long it feels. But basically that will be bonus. Yay. That'll be bonus footage on Sunday. I'm so excited for you guys to get to see the entire thing, because I think a lot of, right, you see me and other people doing all this crazy shit, but you don't know their actual perception of the game. And it's going to be fun to see if I get anything right. Because something that I, as Luke said tonight in the recap, I make a lot of vlogs. I say a lot of things. I predict things in my vlogs and confessionals, but you don't get to see all of that. So this is going to be a fun way Sunday, before going into this mysterious swap, to kind of get a grasp of where our game is so far, what is my perception, but also what am I being told by other people? Because, you know, perception is reality, and maybe I'm far off, but maybe I get some things right. So we will see on Sunday. So tune in then. So that was the preview.
Yes, tune in then for that bonus footage. I'm super glad that Luke is gonna make it accessible for everyone to see, because I just think it's great. I actually saw it months after Hannah had showed me the footage. It's great. So you all will really love it. And so then basically, you know, we see the scene where we have everybody who's still left in the game. It's revealed that Nasan was unfortunately voted out at the last tribal council. Mike was surprised. He didn't expect it. Luke did ask about his chin, how it's doing, because as we know in the last episode during the challenge, Mike did injure himself with the rock in the running endurance challenge in the snow. And then... Yeah, and the first Syrvivor medical, as we like to call it. Now, the interesting thing that happens here is that Luke says the snake has not been voted out. But there is a twist this time. If the snake decides to reveal themselves, they will have to step away and not participate in the next challenge with their tribe. They will have to take the envelope from Luke, and they will have to do whatever the envelope tells them to do. So basically, in my head,
this could be, oops, sorry, you just like this could, what if this is an advantage? What if this is a disadvantage? Because you're stepping away from a challenge. So what does the snake do?
So the snake, who we all know was me, especially at this point where Nasan got voted out. Nasan was one of my closest allies in the game. I didn't fully trust Abby or Summer at all anymore. And then I really only felt close to Daisy and Mitchell. At this point, I knew, one, I did not want the other side or the other tribe to get the advantage, because later in the game, if it is found out that I let an advantage go to them, I feel like that could be bad for my game. And I really wanted people to know I was the snake and I got away with it. And I think it's also very helpful for me to have an advantage at this point in the game where I am not in the numbers and I'm on the bottom of my tribe. So I reveal myself as a snake. My tribe is like, what? I took a different approach than the two snakes prior, Erica and Derek, and I didn't tell us.
I agree with the recap. It was a very intelligent, I mean, there was no reason you needed to tell anyone. I think the former snakes got a little bullied into their positions, but you kept quiet and avoided the suspicion, and people were like, oh, well, okay, Geneva.
They're like, oh, okay, well, cool. We thought it was Daisy and Mitch this whole week, but it wasn't. So, it worked out. And overall, I think the reception from people was that they were actually very happy that, one, I revealed myself and that I did not let the advantage go to Zeleny. So in the end, I'm glad I did it. I did feel really bad because I was leaving my tribe, but I realized that Luke kind of intentionally did this because with our tribe, we still had an extra number. We had 8 people versus the 7 on Zeleny. So I think it was an intentional way to remove somebody from the challenge by having them do another challenge.
Oh, that's really smart on production's part. I will say, like, why don't you recap the advantage and what you chose to share with that advantage now? I guess we see other people later in the episode doing things, but like we could touch on that now.
Yeah, I don't think in the episode it was fully clear what exactly happened, so I think this is probably the best time for me to explain this. So basically, everybody left me. They were all like, bye, Geneva. Have fun doing whatever you're doing. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. So I opened the envelope. Basically, I get this thing that says that I am the idol gatherer, which gives me all 3 clues to the Zeleny tribe idol, all 3 clues to the Maroon 9 idol, and then also gives me a paper for a potential 24-hour idol clue. So this paper basically tells me that there are currently 2 idols in play this season. If both idols have been found, then there is a 24-hour idol clue in play. That is in play for 24 hours. If one or more idols have not been found, so like if both idols are still not found or one of them is still not found, I could be basically looking for nothing. So to me, that was a little concerning because I'm like, this doesn't sound like an advantage. This sounds like I'm potentially not even going to find anything. So what's so great about this? It doesn't sound, I don't know. So I get this.
How long did you look for the Maroon 9 one? Weeks.
I think I probably spent 2 hours.
Yeah.
I didn't spend a lot of time because I think I went to look once by Hall of Languages area, by Hendricks Chapel, and then I didn't find anything, probably because we'll eventually find out later that Nassan was the one who had the idol the whole time and he left within his pocket. But at this point, I didn't know that. I thought Daisy had the idol because I was with Daisy when she found the fake idol that Nassan hid.
No, at this point, no one knows that except maybe our guest. We'll see what they knew when they come on.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things is like, I could be looking for nothing. I could have just left the challenge and spend this next 24 hours looking for an idol that's not there, or maybe it is there and I miss it. And that's like, and at this point you are, pursuing grad school, you're pursuing your MPA. And that's like, how, because I think as Survivor fans were like, all night, baby, 24 hours, like, let's go. But then it's freaking cold in Syracuse. You're not finding anything. And you're like, what if I'm literally digging up this landscaper's job for nothing?
Mm-hmm.
What if I'm going to get caught by DPS digging through all these freaking bushes, destroying the property? Okay, like for nothing.
Yeah. And so since we didn't really see the footage, actually, it's kind of funny because the footage where I'm actually explaining this advantage is after I did my first look around campus. So I actually looked outside of Newhouse, like the communication school. I spent a lot of time out there in the bushes because basically I was given a clue. I don't have it word for word, but it basically was like 24 hours. It doesn't seem like a lot of time. So let's give you a little help. I'm near the bushes where people like to eat. They seem a little tipsy, though kind of funny, kind of neat. Talk shows are kind of my thing. Find me and grab me some coffee, all just for you. Something along those lines. And so I don't know the campus at all. I spent all of my time in Maxwell Hall and Eggers Hall, which is where the public administration classes are. That's where I spend my time. So basically,
if for those who go to Syracuse or don't know Syracuse or whatever, this is obviously very clearly Kimmel Hall, where you can get snacks, where a lot of people live around the area. There's a lot of dorms around Kimmel. So, it's just this like cafe place. There's like a Dunkin', there's a something, whatever. And so people often walk, they walk past drunk, or they go to it when they're right hungover or snacky snacks. So it is really a great place to eat, talk shows, coffee. It fits the bill. But Geneva does not know this.
Yeah, and actually, one of my saving graces to kind of help lead me toward this idol is actually here to talk about the episode with us. So I'm going to introduce you all to Mitchell, and welcome Mitchell or Mitch. How are you today? I cannot hear you actually. Now?
Hold on.
There we go.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
I'm doing fantastic. How are you two?
Good. I was talking about how I had to run off, basically, and not participate in the challenge. I was telling them a little bit about what the idol clue was, and how at this point, I'm just looking around. I don't know what's going on. I also didn't know at this point who I could trust. Like, I knew that you and Daisy voted with me, but I was still very reluctant to tell anybody about this clue. So I spent my time going around Newhouse looking. I was literally near the bushes. People were looking at me through the window like, what is wrong with this girl? Why is she like digging in the ground? I don't get what she's doing. So I spent hours looking for this idol, didn't find it. Then I went the next day after one of my meetings for PIRO, which is the Public Administration International Relations Association, because I was VP of that. And then I called Mitchell on the phone, and I'm like, Mitch, I got this advantage. I have this 24-hour idol clue. I have probably 2 hours left. I was actually texting him that day trying to be like, hey, are you free later? I really need to meet up with you. I need to talk about something with you. But then Mitch is like, I'm having ice cream with my friend.
Yeah. I remember you texted me that, and I was like, oh shoot, like I know this is like this sounds serious. I know you had the advantage, the snake advantage. I didn't know what it was, but I was like, crap, like I really need to like be available and be here for Geneva. Like obviously we were blindsided the day before, like I had no idea what was going on, and I was like, really wish I could like just get up and go, but I was unfortunately unavailable. But I remember you called and you told me the clue, and I was like, the talk show host was really what got me. I mean, the whole clue in and of itself was kind of not like obvious, but I had an inkling about where it would be. And you talked about going to Newhouse. I was like, no, Geneva, you're in the wrong place. Like you need to go to Kimmel, this and that. Like I remember that pretty clearly. Yeah.
Yeah. I did not know where Kimmel was. Kimmel was on the opposite side of campus from where I've ever been, ever lived. I did not know what that was a thing, so I had to Google it on Google Maps. And then I went to go look around there. I actually called Daisy. Daisy's sister was in town. As you saw Daisy's sister in the previous episode, they were helping me, but then they had to go. Daisy had a lab, and then I'm just like looking around like crazy. You know, the description mentioned coffee, so I went to Dunkin' Donuts. So I rewarded myself before finding anything. Probably not the way to do it, but I was like, I'm going to sit here because if there actually is an idol here and I miss it, I just want to see Luke come and take it, because then I would at least know. Or I would just find out there was never an idol and I was just searching for nothing. And that was kind of what was really important for me to figure out either way. But as I looked through the bushes, what ended up happening was the idol wasn't actually in the bushes. It was leaned up against the wall. So like we like never touched the wall. It was just we were looking like in the bushes. So I was like, this is very sneaky the way it was propped up. But I found it 15 minutes before that 5 o'clock deadline. And I'm like, Luke, I think I found it. I texted him. I went to Maxwell. I opened it up. I freaked out, then went home and opened it up officially to show you all that I found the idol. So yeah, I just wanted to give you all that background with what happened there. And just to say, by the way, So later in the episode, we'll talk about it more. But to establish trust in the game, because I knew that everybody on our tribe would be like, Geneva, what was the challenge you had to go do? Why did you leave tribal? Why'd you leave why'd you leave the challenge? Where did you go? So I was like, what can I tell them that's truthful, but not have them be super suspicious of me? So I gave them the clues for the Zeleni tribe. I gave them the clues for the Maroon 9 tribe, but I didn't give them the 24-hour idol clue. So at this point of the game, only Mitchell and Daisy knew that I had this idol and that I had a 24-hour idol clue, and everyone else just thought about this paper that I showed you all with the 3 clues from both tribes.
And this is really smart because not only do the other people go, oh, word, that was her advantage. I remember it distinctly getting over to my tribe and me going, that's her advantage? That's lame. There should be something else. Like, that's lame. They're both, like, what if they were both already found? Which was, I think, the large perception. So, like, Geneva doesn't get anything? Lame. But I think they talked about in the recap today, like, what you did was, like, very, very smart. And we see you send the other, like, 4 of the Maroon 5 off, and they're just, looking for idols, wasting time.
Yeah, I gave it to Abby and Summer. I met with them because they apologized about Nasan and told me the reason why they voted the way they did. Honestly, I didn't believe them, but I knew that I still had to work with them in the game because I felt like that's important. I can't just burn bridges, especially when I am at the bottom of a tribe. And then also I met up with Jack and Eli that week. We didn't see the footage of the Eli meeting or anything like that. I actually filmed like 6 vlogs this week. I don't think we saw a lot of them, but we still, saw a considerable amount. And that's where I also shared that information with Jack, and I shared the information with Eli to establish trust. And it was great to see other people looking for the idol. So that was great for me because I didn't know they did that. But next, before we get more into that, I want to actually talk about the challenge, which I didn't really know about for 10 months because I wasn't there. So basically, it was great. It was interesting. I do think though it was very like if the challenge was just emojis, I feel like Maroon 9 would have had that. They actually really did really well with that, but it's like the puzzles had so many points in comparison that it's just like.
I think how it worked out is you got the worksheet, you had to assign people, and really it was made very clear that the later questions had more weight to them. So put the people you're confident in, like, at the end, because they're really gonna, and I think that's how it shaped up. So even though, like, Summer killed it on the, Drake Songs one, in the end, just by winning the puzzles alone.
The hotline bling. She got Old Town Road and Locked Out of Heaven. So she actually competed against Addie in that challenge. We had songs. We had shows and movies as a category as well. We saw Hannah fighting a lot there, but Daisy took most of those points.
But I think good meme content. So you'll see some of that. But yeah.
Eli and Erica, they did the word puzzle, all the fix-ins. So we saw that. We saw Derek and Mitch with the whole the say cheese, which I don't remember what you said. It was close, but not quite, I guess, in that one. Once in a Blue Moon you got, which was great. The other one was Derek had Raining Cats and Dogs down.
All I remember about that was Derek was like so aggressive about getting to the cup. Is that like we had so many issues like reaching for the cup and like reaching out of our chair, and it was like Luke was like, all right, you guys need to calm down because it was so intense. And I was like, this isn't even like the big points part. I was like obviously every point matters, but it was like so intense, and I was like, whoa, this is falling out of his chair, and I was like, need to take it down like 2 notches for me.
Yeah,
the funny part for me in that part was the hold your horses, the beating a dead horse. That was so great, Mitch. I mean, like, that does not seem like hold, that emoji. So like, I don't know. It was a little strange emoji, to be honest. So I could see where it's kind of like is this like beat? Like what?
Definitely.
Like a fist? Like what's happening here? So after that like first general section, at that point, like after that word puzzle and the emojis, it was Maroon 9 at 10 and Zeleny at 8. We had the second word puzzle round 2, which was Jack v. Austin. It was I'll read the votes was the answer. Austin gets the points. Then it's 10-16. Zeleny has 16. Then Meg and Andrew do the different challenges. So we had like a lot of phrases. So wake up and smell the coffee, run, Forrest, run. Ocean's 11. The fact that Megan got that, I was like, I wouldn't have thought of, I was just thinking waves. Like, I don't know. That was pretty funny.
I am watching this back and I think I am a Megan stan through and through watching this back. And it's funny because the recap, they're like, does Hannah still hate Megan? Maybe Hannah will vote for Megan this round. And I'm like, no, are you kidding me? This girl is like, oh. Yeah.
Yes. And then Andrew gets the Syrvivor one right with the emojis. And he's like, I've never watched the show, which is pretty amazing. I mean, I think it's very interesting though. Like, you know, we have people like Hannah and Jack who are super fans, but we also had people, you know, like Andrew who've never seen an episode but prior to playing. So that's pretty cool. We did have like, you know, across the spectrum in terms of people's like familiarity with the game and with the show. And then basically with the last challenge, it was 14 Maroon 9, 20 Zeleny, and then Abby and Jack went versus Austin and Mike. And the answer was, I've already won with the puzzle. So Austin and Mike won it for Zeleny. And so Zeleny is safe and doesn't have to go to tribal, which it looks really good for Hannah because we were seeing many confessionals talking about let's target Hannah. So thank goodness for that because she's still in the game.
Yeah. Everyone was like, Hannah needed that. So I was certainly happy. I was like, great, easy. Looking forward to the tribe swap. And then we see a confessional from Jack, and Jack was chosen to do all 3 of the puzzles, being his self-proclaimed superfan self. But he does not serve, and he kind of talks about that in his confessional. He's like, that's kind of embarrassing. But we get to see how the week takes over, and it looks like that's not really a topic of discussion at all.
Yeah, not really. I mean, he is worried that he could get voted out maybe this week in the sense that he wasn't at the last challenge. He messed up in this challenge. Could be easy reasons to vote someone out to make a tribe strong. But obviously that doesn't really seem to be a factor because he's in this solid 5-person alliance. But, you know, we even do get confessionals after that challenge from Addie. Addie was super excited. She said someone's looking out for her, you know, like she needs a little break. Everything in her life's going well. I think she thinks that physical challenges are more her thing than the mental. So she kind of talked about how she blew it. But, you know, I think it's always good when you could, you know, joke about yourself too. So that's always good. Abby did say an interesting point that she said that people on her tribe were debating on throwing the challenge to make a move. But, you know, so them losing in a sense wasn't necessarily a horrible thing for Maroon 9 because people were considering intentionally. You know,
I mean, the fact that, right, that you being in the minority, Geneva, left and they could have decided to throw it, right? And you wouldn't have been there to stop it.
Right.
And they actually tried. And
I'm glad that they tried. And then I'm glad, well, I mean, in a sense, I do feel bad I wasn't there, but also it's like, you know, I think that challenge could go anyway. I don't know how I would have done, honestly. So,
I mean, you got so many more benefits from skipping out. It doesn't matter. Like, I think at the end of the episode is like,
and weirdly, people weren't like, let's vote out Geneva for this, like, because she went off. You know, it was more like we respect her, and I'm like, thank you guys, I appreciate that. And then the final thing I want to mention before we start talking more. Yeah, the one thing I want to mention before we start talking more about Maroon 9, and I'm going to get Mitch more in this conversation because he's definitely involved within this tribal. Hannah does talk about the potential of the tribe swap. Like, she knows it's coming. You kind of give that confessional. You allude to how we're even in numbers, and how you're ready and looking forward to it. So anything you want to touch on in relation to that?
I think I'm delayed. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm slow, but I'll. Yeah, we knew the minute that Luke says there's not going to be a snake next week. We know the numbers because of Derek's advantage. It's about time. I am feeling the pressure to get out of my tribe. I just want to reunite with my buds on both sides of me, to finally get to talk game with these guys who are refusing to talk game with me because we're not in the same tribe. So I'm very much wanting to get out of my current situation.
Well, Mitch went idol hunting with you in the snow with the shovel.
But I did not know all this. I mean, I didn't know this tea until afterward.
Yeah, it was a little bit weird considering we were both kind of playing each other while we were idol hunting.
Sure. I was nothing but genuine, but okay. So yeah, we know this tribe swap is coming. I am so confident. I'm like, it's going to be a 3 to 5. Like, it's going to be a 3 tribes of 5, or it's going to be 2 tribes of 7. And then someone who joins the game is going to take someone's spot of the next person eliminated. So I was very confident.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so basically, Erica talks excitement about walking today with a win. She has the tribe swap advantage and a hidden immunity idol. They weren't sure if they were going to blindside Hannah, but she thinks she'll sleep pretty well tonight. So that's good. Austin talks about how there's a divide in the tribe, but it's not necessarily apparent. Mike told him, and Derek told him individually, about how Hannah had led Derek to that fake idol. So a lot more suspicion coming from people on Zeleny on Hannah. Eli just got back from the challenge. You know, they lost. We didn't do well with the word challenges. We did better with the emojis, but Zeleny beat us where it mattered. They want to get Daisy or Mitchell out. He doesn't trust Mitchell. And Daisy could be talking to the other team, he thinks. And they seemed he talks about how they were pretty surprised it was Nasan who went home. And so, we all know that I find the idol, the 24-hour idol, and how excited I was, especially considering 24 hours ago, Nasan got voted out, and that was not great. And then I found out that our tribe lost a challenge, so that wasn't great either. I feel pretty good because now I feel like I have a bit of agency in this game. And I just kind of talked about that experience, about how Mitch gave me that information I needed. So thank you, Mitch. And then Jack talks for a bit. Jack says this will be quite a week. He got information from Abby and Summer that Daisy has the idol. Now I know why I couldn't find this idol. We're thinking that Mitchell, Daisy, and Geneva are a group of 3, and they have one idol, which is true when you think about it. We do have one idol. It's just an idol that they don't know about. And Geneva did not participate in the challenge to get an advantage. So there could be 2 advantages for 2 players. But we don't have enough people to split the votes because there's 5 of them. So they could only, if there was an idol played on Mitchell or on Daisy, that would just be 3 versus 2. And it's like, let's say one of us played an idol on the person who had 3 votes. Then like Mitchell, Daisy, and Geneva could have the advantage there and vote the right person out. So they're like, we need to figure out what to do. We have a lot to weigh. We have to weigh some options to weigh. He thinks that they should have voted out Daisy, but for the Alliance, they voted out Nasan. Abby and Summer knew that Daisy had the idol, but didn't tell Jack until that day for some reason, which is kind of scary to him because he wanted to be in the final 3 with the 2 of them. And Jack feels like they made a bad move by not flushing the idol. And so, he was pretty mad about that.
Yeah, so what you're saying, Geneva, is that you, Mitchell, and Daisy with a real idol have a shot if you 3 stick together.
Right, but it's also the mystery of knowing.
Right, you have to play it right, which is...
You have to play it right.
Difficult in this situation, given that the last vote, it was a complete blindside, and right? It's scary because last vote, it's like, oh, Nasan went and no one suspected that. What's next, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we see a car conversation between Abby, Summer, and myself. They basically gave me their explanation about why they voted out Nasan and that the boys basically made them do it. But in reality, obviously, we saw that it was the girls who did it. One thing that I did want to mention was I had a conversation with Daisy, Abby, Summer, and myself a few days before Tribal. And Summer actually threw out to me that Nasan could potentially be an easy vote. And I asked her, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by an easy vote? If he's going to work with us and Mitchell, we have 6-3. That doesn't make any sense. And then she's like, oh yeah, no, like, that. But I don't know why in my head, that didn't really come off to me like even more as like that he could be the target. But I think it was just because everyone was just saying, oh, Andrew was going to be the target last week. So then I was like, okay. But also I didn't know Nasan had the idol. I thought Daisy had the idol. So I couldn't tell Nasan to play an idol if I didn't know he had it, So that's the challenge there. Now, before we get to Mitchell, we're going to talk about Andrew. So Andrew actually ran into Abby and Summer. And basically, Abby and Summer were like, we met with Geneva. She apparently got all the clues to the other tribe's idols. So we decided to come look, near Abe, Maxwell, Hall, Eggers, which is like my home, my campus buildings where I take classes. And so they look at the clues for the Zeleny idol. So they go to the Mount Steps, and then they realize that the other tribe probably has the idol. And then Andrew said today he was walking back from Newhouse from a class. He ran into Abby and Summer, and he basically just recants his whole day and basically said that they went to look. And then this is the thing that's very interesting. So then when Jack came, he said he met with Mitchell, and Mitchell apparently said he's willing to vote with the guys and vote out Daisy. But Andrew says he doesn't know how reliable that information is. And we also know that Daisy has an immunity idol. So they're not really sure at this point where their plan of action is. And so basically, Mitchell, he does give a quick update on how it's going after the first tribal. This is the funny part of the episode for me. Just actually one of the funniest things of the season.
Oh, this is the funniest thing. So
do you want to actually tell the story, Mitchell? Because I think it should come from you. So why don't you tell everybody the story of what happened?
Yeah, what were you thinking?
Yeah, so after the Nasan vote, I mean, it was a complete blindside. Like I was in shock. I was really disappointed because I thought Nasan was a power player. So I kind of understand why they would want him out. But they referred to him as an easy vote, and I was like, no, I think Nasan has a lot of potential. So I was disappointed, and I also thought he would be strong in challenges. So I was like, why would you get him out? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Where are these votes coming from? And so that week I just kind of, felt on the outs, like I didn't know what was happening. I was like, let me just try to talk to Jack. Jack seems to be in control. What can I figure out? Like, what's going on? Let's see what's going on. And so I texted him, and for him to just respond, who is this, was like a slap in the face. Like they had, not him specifically, but the guys as a whole had, like, the Backstreet Boys kind of said from week one, like, we'll have a guys alliance, like, this is what we're going to do. And then for them to have that conversation, like, oh, this is who we're going to get out. And then Nasan goes, like, I don't know what's going on. And so
what happened to Brotherhood?
Right. What happened to Brotherhood? For him to say, who is this? To not even save my number when one of those three had created the chat. Like, are you joking? Yeah. Like, for real? Like, see how
it's also
me in the game. It was
it's
just
also like Syrvivor, and you have what? there's at this point there's eight, like 7 other people other than yourself on your tribe, and you can't talk to them and all have their numbers. And then when you swap, like, I don't know, there's less than 16 people in the game. You'd think you could keep track of them all.
Right. You would think, you'd at least have your number saved. Like, even if it's not as Mitchell, just like next vote. Like, I literally don't care as long as you have it saved. But he was like, who is this? And I wasn't having it.
But also, it wouldn't surprise me if this was if Jack did have your number and went, who is this? Like, you know what I mean? Because that I think, as you'll see the next few weeks, that is Jack's character. Jack is very aware of how he speaks to people and what he says. And so he would do shit like that. But yeah, it's like, what the fuck, man? Like,
but also another thing is that because he didn't save Mitchell's number, that's also maybe telling that he didn't really have a huge intention of working with him.
Yeah,
and that's I think the takeaway, I think, from that the most.
That's what I took away from it is he didn't even save my number. He has no intention of working with me whatsoever. And like I said, I wasn't having, I was already annoyed about the Nissan vote. I wasn't having a great day. He texted back, who is this? It just kind of ticked me off. I was like, let's just mess with him. Let's see if we can stir the pot. I'm like, at that point, I'm not going to lie. It was still early in the week before the vote. But at that point, him saying, who is this? Triggered to me, I'm next off. I have no safety. There's nothing I can do, So I was like, let's just mess around. Let's see what we can do. And so, I kind of strung him along for like a little bit. And then we ended up meeting. I was like, it's Mitchell. Like, you're kind of a jackass for not saving my number, but it's fine because, we ended up figuring it out. Yes. But we ended up meeting and talking about things and as much as I wanted to believe what he said when we met up, I couldn't, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't take it as it was because he didn't even have my number saved. And it was week 3, like you got to have something. He hadn't shown up to, what was it? The second challenge. I hadn't seen much at all. I didn't really know much about him. And that just kind of put me off more so than I already was. So it was disappointing to have that happen, especially because, people wouldn't talk to me anyways, simple things like following back on Instagram, kind of things like a game thing, like just common courtesy, like we know each other, like you won't even follow me on Instagram, like for what, I'm not here to step on people and be really mean or even like play as cutthroat as some people. And I understand that's some people's game, but I definitely think, like I came in to make friends and to meet people. And so to have, common courtesy not reciprocated was just kind of like, a slap in the face and just like, come on, like I'm already down because of Nathan leaving. I need something, like I need something to feel, like I don't mean nothing in this game, because I am a player, and as much as I started off on the wrong foot, like I still wanted to play and I still wanted to have fun. So it was just kind of funny.
Yeah. And I think as we go on, even the most intense cutthroat people, right? You think about the intense players, the people that are like, oh, I'm gonna like lie, cheat, steal, like have feelings, or like you can still play like a villain game, but but show up or like be a little kind when it counts, at least to some, like, or just give people like respect people. And we'll see how that develops this season with how people treat people and how that manifests itself in the game, if it does.
So this is one thing I want to talk about briefly before I continue, because so one thing I guess detail that seems to be discussed a lot from your conversation with Jack was that basically you either had alluded or said that Daisy had an idol. So did you, and how did this come about?
So I don't remember completely. I did not say specifically that she had an idol. I remember that he had told me actually that he thought Daisy had an idol, and I had heard that also from Eli previously.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was talking with him, I kind of assumed that he had known, and he told me. So our conversation went along as if everyone in our tribe knew that Daisy had an idol. Now, mind you, when this conversation happened, I knew that Daisy did not have an idol. I at least had like a 95% surety that she did not have an idol, because I knew Nassan had the idol, and I knew that he went home with it. And
did you guys did you and Nassan have a conversation basically?
Yes, Nassan and I had a conversation about it. And unfortunately, it didn't seem like it needed to be brought to tribal first at that time. So that made it even more tough.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have a very good idea. He didn't tell me that he made the fake, but I had a very good idea that Daisy's idol was not real. And so I kind of tried to use that to my advantage as much as possible, especially when Geneva had the snake advantage. I was like, 2 idols in the game. I know for a fact that our idol does not exist anymore. So I know she can find her idol at Kimmel, where it was found. And so when she found it, I was like, yes, it just confirms everything else that I already knew. And then I just assumed someone on Zeleny had the idol, or someone else had it, kind of thing. And so when I had that conversation with Jack, I went along as if Daisy had the idol, because there was no point in telling him otherwise, because it wouldn't have benefited my game or Daisy's game or anyone's except his.
Mm-hmm.
I was still skeptical, and it ended up working out for me in the episode, them thinking that Daisy had the idol, barely, but it did, work out for me.
Right. But then I think that slither of information caused me to have distrust in Mitchell. Because the thing is, I met with Jack that week. For those of you who didn't really know, I think it was briefly mentioned probably in a vlog. So I met with Jack, and we had never talked one-on-one before. So it was our opportunity to get to know each other on a game level and personal level. So we talked for a bit. And Jack told me about his interaction with Mitch, how Mitch messaged him anonymously and was sending him these weird messages and was messing around with him. And then eventually he found out that, it was Mitchell, and Mitchell was sending these weird messages like, meet me at 7:30 at Hall of Languages. And I was like, what in the world is Mitchell?
I was in Hall of Languages for class, and I was like, can you just meet me here afterwards? Like, when I read it back after the fact, I was like, wow, I sounded really sketchy, really like anonymous. Like,
I don't know, that sounds kind of fun.
It was. I'm not gonna lie, it was fun. Like I was, like I said, it was just like I was annoyed. I was like, let's just have some fun. Let's see how far we can go.
Right.
So, but yeah, I was in Hall of Languages, and after class, I was like, can you just meet me here? Like, let's figure things out.
And the thing is, for me, was the reason I was generally concerned about him talking about Daisy having an idol is because I knew Mitchell and Daisy were the only 2 people that knew I had an advantage in this game. So if Mitchell could easily tell about Daisy's idol and they're close, he could easily tell about my idol too. And so at that point, I was just kind of like, maybe I'm okay with Mitchell going home, because maybe Mitchell is bad for my game. And so at this point, I'm just like, I don't really know. I think I'm maybe just going to go along with the other 5 and join their vote, because basically I spoke to Jack, Eli also in person, which that vlog wasn't shown. And I actually spoke to Andrew via FaceTime for a bit. And I talked to all 3 of them about this vote. They told me the girls are going to vote Daisy and the guys are going to vote Mitchell. We're going to have 3-3. And then if an idol is played on one of them, then the other person will go home. So that was essentially what the plan was going to be that week. But because of all this drama, I told Daisy about what I heard from Jack. And so then Daisy was mad and wanted to vote Mitchell. And then Mitchell, we'll get to why Mitchell voted Daisy, because I think that's also very interesting. But yeah, so like I talk about this all in a vlog, and I'm just like, this is all a mess. So I was worried because Mitchell knew about my advantage, but I was like, also like, well, you know, if I didn't tell him about it, maybe I wouldn't have found it. So who knows? Yeah. So then Daisy talks about potentially playing, you know, the fake idol, the girls voting for Mitch, Mitch voting for Eli. That exchange was weird. I think basically we were having like a group FaceTime call, and all the girls, we were telling Mitchell to vote Eli or something weird. And then I don't even know.
It was a weird FaceTime because I think it was Abby who couldn't make it.
Yeah, or something. I don't. Yeah.
Daisy and Summer, and then after the fact, like Abby had texted and she was like, "Mitch, LOL," right? And so it was the night before the vote, and I don't remember if it was Abby or Summer. I think it was Abby who had said, "LOL, we're voting Mitch." And
yeah, because we had a group chat with Mitch, and so Abby dropped that in the group chat, and so then we're like, technically we weren't voting Mitch, we were voting Daisy, because the girls were supposed to vote Daisy, but it was so awkward. And Daisy and I got on FaceTime and started laughing because we're like, oh my gosh.
Yep. And as
that
and like
that tops the elevator story, I think.
It was bad, and I genuinely, to this day, I don't know if she meant to say my name or not, because at that point I was pretty sure I was going to get votes, if not completely voted off. So it wasn't a surprise to me at all, but it was just kind of like, did you really just slip up that bad? Like did you really just do that? And I was like, it was tough. I got very little sleep that night. The night before, I was like racking my brain, like, what does that mean? Is there like something I'm missing? Like, I don't know. But the FaceTime about voting Eli was definitely something that was weird, especially considering that we had all, me and Nassan had talked to you and Daisy and had said, we were told that Summer and Abby were on our side to vote out Andrew the week before, that I was already skeptical about the two of them. Mm-hmm. And I believe I brought it up with you or Daisy about, are Summer and Abby really on our side? You know, I wasn't sure about that. I felt fairly confident in you and Daisy, but the other two, you know, I had significant.
And it was complicated because you two were the target. So it's like, well, I guess I have to vote one of you out, which is really unfortunate.
He was like, do I do anything, or I'm just gonna be over here, guys.
So at that point, I was like, well, I'm actually voting Daisy when we're talking about voting Eli. So this is just all kind of funny. But that's why it's also funny that Abby said your name, because she didn't even vote you. So it never made any sense, but it was kind of funny. But Andrew talks about how the plan is that Geneva, so me, I'm going to vote with them to do a 6. So they have a 3-3 split. And so he also talked to Mike, and he had a good talk with him. He thinks that long term, you know, they should work together. And then Andrew has 5 kids on his side. You know, he knows he can trust. And they could have across tribal lines of 8 of them, not including Geneva and Derek specifically.
So basically they're saying, look, our Maroon 5, do you want to pair up? Mike, do you want to pair up with like Freshman 3 and Maroon 5? Are talking about a merger. A merger for the merge, if you will. Which is pretty huge. This is a pretty huge conversation for the amount of time it took up for the episode. Like, you'd think that more people would be talking about it, considering that like they're literally talking about like control of the entire game.
And the interesting point that was made at the end of this confessional was Mike wants Hannah gone as much as we do. So even my tribe is like, we want Hannah gone. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, the people that don't even know me want me out. That's great.
I can say that at the meet and greet, like after the meet and greet, like you and Megan stood out to us. And so we were just suspect. We didn't know what to think at the time. And so I guess that's where I don't know specifically why they felt that way. I don't know if it's because they knew more information about your tribe than I did. But that's very interesting.
Even at the meet and greet, it was like, shit, I'm sitting too close to Megan. And that was, I think, why you see that vlog, right? Of me being like, she has to go, because I'm sitting next to her. I know what it, like, I've been in classrooms. I know what it means to be like an outspoken woman in a classroom, in whatever room, in like a first impression. It doesn't, you know what I mean? So, and I get to know Megan, and I get to be like, wow, she's great. Like, we vibe so well. But at first impression, like, guys don't like that. This cast didn't vibe with that. So that's tough, but you can't do anything about that. You just like, and it's not my, like, you can't beat yourself up just because people don't like strong, intimidating, talkative women.
Yeah, I just want to chime in because it was made aware to me that the people on our tribe were just kind of like, Megan, you know, they're like, after we won the first challenge, they were like, Megan. And, you know, you kind of, like, I can see why, but also, like, the same reason as to why I didn't want to have an all-boys alliance. Like, that's lame and, you know, that's sexist. Like, there's no need for that. Like, you don't know her. She seems like a really nice girl. And I will say, I got to know Megan better on after later on in the game, and she's an amazing person. And so it's just kind of like, yes, she might have talked too much, but like that's really not a good reason to get someone out. And so, you know, something like that is just it's annoying to have to play the game and to have people who just think something as easy as that. And then, but again, the same thing can be said about Aaron and Noah. Like, they were two great people as well. And I know Noah outside of the game, and like, you know, I would never vote him out.
Noah, oh my God, that's the thing. It's like, if we would have known, if it's almost like if we would have taken the time to get to know Noah, to get to know Daisy, to get to know Nissan. It's like, and we see, like, I've seen the vlogs, looking, you know, watching up until now and seeing Daisy. I didn't get to play with her, but seeing Daisy, it's like, why would anyone vote Daisy out? She's super friendly, and she seems like she's a team player and already talking to the other tribe, getting information from the other tribe for her tribe, not for her own personal gain. And she finds an idol, and then it's weird. Because I don't know. So it is. I think you can make the same case for Daisy, is that they saw this friendly, talented, beautiful human being, and they went, meh, let's vote off Daisy. Like, let's vote off Daisy. What?
Yeah,
what?
It's crazy.
Like, I wanted to get out guys because I wanted to. I guess that shaped my frame at the beginning of the game, because it's like, oh, like, let's just, like, men don't need them. Like, don't need them. But also, it wasn't that gendered, but it was also like, if I can, like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to go home to like a group of guys. But at the end of the day, that doesn't, like, I don't know. Yeah.
And I get what you're saying, and I think, and I want to just say another thing, as Geneva was saying, is the 5 kind of linking on to Mike and other people from Zeleny, from as early on as that, is, you know, to have a group as big as that going into merge, I think is insane. I just think, you know, long term, it doesn't make sense to me. And so that, I think, was what was eating at me during our votes of Nissan and Daisy for Abby and Summer, especially. It was like, why? Like, why would you link yourselves to such a large group? Yes, you can make it to merge, but then what happens? Because you are still at a disadvantage between 3 guys plus whatever guys they get from the other tribe. And it didn't make sense in the long term to have such a group, such a large group, because one person wins. You know, one person wins the game. You're going to do in the long run that gets you there. Haven't found an idol. You're not the snake. What other moves are you making that's going to get you there, that's going to distinguish you from the guys when it's clear that, you know, those connections are 3 guys, 2 girls, a group of 5. But when it comes apart, that's what it looked like to me.
And tune in for the Sunday special, because this is, I think, what we talk about. Because now we have seen, and Zeleny sees this, 2 Maroon 9 tribals have gone, and the same 5 people have voted together, right? And the assumption is that they're going to vote together again. So knowing that 5 are together and they voted together successfully twice, they've been together for 4 weeks now and bonded for 4 weeks now. Why would a freshman 3 attach themselves to that unless, like, they would have to be able to break it down if they want to have a shot at winning? Otherwise, they're just giving that 5 a ticket to which may be jumping ahead too far. But that's going to be interesting to see next week, because we know we're going to get a tribe swap. But where were we, Geneva, in terms of...
So right before Tribal, Summer does a quick vlog 45 minutes before. She is not feeling too well. She says surviving, not thriving. She talks about the split of the vote, but Daisy wants to vote for Mitch because of Mitch telling about the idol. And so that's quite funny. Now, Mitch, I want you to tell everybody what led you to vote for Daisy, because this is not in the episode, but this is something that I am aware about.
Yeah, so as we said before, you know, there was a FaceTime between me and the 4 girls on our tribe coming to the conclusion of Eli. And I liked Eli at that point, but I was in no position to argue or to say anyone else's name, you know? So I was like, okay, Eli. And so I went, you know, I woke up that morning before Tribal with no other options. And then the weirdest thing is we're getting ready to go to Tribal, and people are offering rides. And, you know, I was planning to just drive myself, to offer driving other people. And then Jack had jumped before me, and he's like, I can drive people. And he's saying he's going to pick up Eli, who's on South Campus, same with me. And I was like, well, let me just get a ride, you know? And so I ended up in the car with Jack, Eli, and Andrew. And we're going to Tribal. And, they're kind of talking about it, and I was like, what's going on today, guys? Like, what's the move? What's the plan? Like, what are you gonna do? And Jack just kept hammering home. He was like, Daisy. Vote for Daisy and you're safe. Vote for Daisy and I'll make sure you keep going. Daisy. And I was, you know, 10, 15 minutes.
They know.
Like, I had no other option. Eli, and I'm in the car with him, and I'm like, well, I can't say I'm gonna vote out Eli, and that girls are gonna vote out Eli. So, you know, and then the other thing I'm thinking about, and they caught this in the film when I said my vote. I got a ride. I didn't want to walk back, call an Uber, get on the bus. Like, I wanted to be able to get a ride home, you know? Like, I didn't want to have to leave before everyone else. Like, what? So a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, was about getting a ride back to my home. Well,
I think that he made a great move, though. I think listening to Jack worked out, and I guess him hammering it, being like, Daisy, Daisy, Daisy. Because what we find out at Tribal Council, which is very interesting, we get asked lots of questions. I think this is actually one of the most, I think, hilarious tribals, I'd like to say. Just because I think part of it was a lot of us were cracking jokes. A lot of us were just like, I don't know, there's a lot of whispering. There's just a lot of like sarcasm. It was just a funny day.
Yeah, like people are, you can tell.
Directly,
uncomfortable.
Daisy, is there going to be an idol? Like, that's like too hot, especially when everyone else knows. And asked me like, Mitch, do you have a plan? I was like, I hope everyone has a plan. What do you mean? What kind of question is that? It's Syrvivor. We should all have a plan. But yeah, it was just it was wild. it was a wild tribe. I
And
remember
then he also does. Luke does this to me on the first tribal council, but then he does it to Jack. This tribal, he goes, "Jack, you're a super fan. What do you think about like?" He completely like,
Yes,
and yes, people know, but it's also like when the host says it at a tribal council and you listen to things differently at a tribal council, you're like listening to every single word that's coming out of people's mouths. Like now that's ingrained in everyone's heads. And now no one's going to be able to look at Jack and not think like if it comes down the line and there's a choice between Andrew and Jack, so you're going to vote out Andrew, the guy who's never seen an episode in his life before. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
totally Jack.
I mean, because I think last week, was it? I think last week or the week before that, I actually do a vlog where I'm like, well, Jack is a super fan. He was on production for season 1. Like, these are things. And so, like, Luke reinforcing things that I think probably do not help his game. Like I get why he asks these questions. Yeah.
Well,
I also reinforcing from me that have no basis. Because it's one thing if the girl from the other tribe is like spreading rumors and shit about people, exactly. But then to have the host be like, "Oh no, he is a super fan."
That was the big thing, was that I had heard, I had rumors, like Jack's a super fan, and I was like, okay, and I heard he was on the production before, and I was like, okay, but like there's no, substantial evidence. There's nothing that clues me into that it's 100% fact in this game of Survivor, until the host says, "So you're a fan, right?" And I'm like, okay, so there it is. And it was just, it was weird. And I remember on the ride, I just remember this on the ride too. And I was like trying to figure out, I was like, they were talking, he kept hammering home Daisy, Daisy, Daisy. And I was like, Daisy has the idol. Daisy has the idol. Why can't we vote someone else? Daisy has the idol. And they were like, Daisy. And I was like, okay, fine. And all throughout Tribal, while Luke was asking these questions, and I will admit, although his question was a little bit dumb, do you have a plan? Yes, I have a plan. Everyone should have a plan. I did not have a plan. I was still thinking about my plan while everything was going on. Jack was still whispering in my ear, and I had not made up my mind until I got to that table and started writing a name down. So it was crazy, and it was funny because I was like half listening and everyone was cracking jokes at Tribal, and I was like, I am not in a mental state to be cracking jokes.
Can I say my favorite line? My favorite line from Tribal or question was that Luke was like, "Do you trust these people heading into the vote?" And you're like, "Absolutely not."
I had no reason to trust anyone, especially considering, the prior week, and then the Eli name the night before, and then saying Daisy less than 12 hours later. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea who to trust. I'm 90% sure I'm going home right now. Like, no, Luke, I don't trust anyone. I have zero plans. I'm very confused. And it just felt like people were playing a lot harder than I was prepared to be.
Yeah, and let me just say, on 3 separate occasions now, we have seen Jack whispering in people's ears. I don't think this will be the last. We saw it in the first Maroon 9 Tribal Council to Abby. We saw it during the challenge to Abby, and now we're seeing it to Mitchell. Yep. He's going at it. So I think that's his MO.
Yeah, so before we talk about the votes, I do want to note that Abby was not able to make Tribal, so she actually had to vote in advance, and then also would text the revote in case there would be a revote, which we figured with what was happening, there probably was going to be a revote. So we, voted. Mitchell mentioned the whole ride thing, how he doesn't want to get voted out and have to like walk home because it's a long walk. I walked there. Did I walk there? I think I walked there, and it was like a 25 minute walk.
Right. And you were on West Campus, which is where one of the dorms are. And I was on South Campus. And I'm deep in South Campus, so I promise you that's like a 30, 45-minute walk.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
Especially a walk of shame. Like, I can't do that.
It would be sad. So,
yeah.
Yeah, Daisy's conflicted, but she's voting Mitchell because, you know, he's a snake. She just doesn't respect him as a player, but she likes him as a person. But, you know, in the game, not so much right now.
She's so angry, but she's also like, I respect him as a person, but like, fuck that man. Like, it was so funny. She was so pissed.
I will say we cleared it up afterwards, and I love Daisy to death, and we're pretty good friends right now, I think. So
that's good. That's always great.
It was tough, but you know, Daisy's a great player. She deserves so much better. I really wish it hadn't been between the two of us.
It was really tough. That was a really tough tribal for me too, because I'm like, I'm voting out two people I've really bonded with, especially considering the blind side, and I didn't want to vote any of them out. But it's like I wasn't in a position of power to really do anything else, and I didn't know for sure how people were voting. So at the time, it just was like, I'm just gonna do what they tell me to do at this point, just to make it through and have people trust me.
Right. And you must know that the tribe swap coming, and now you have the idol. Like what can you do when you know you have an idol in your pocket and your ticket is like one, maybe they'll come back to you and work with you again, or you're gonna have so many options in a tribe swap. So but also you're losing two people you wanted to work with, and the two people you wanted to work with are voting for each other. And that
was tough. And I remember because I had known Geneva had the idol, and I knew Daisy had a fake idol. And the whole week, you know, especially right before I was talking to Jack, I was like, what can I do? Like, how do I figure out, is there an idol play for Geneva to get through? But, you know, even if for somehow me, you, Daisy had gotten through unscathed, there were still 4 against 3. It wasn't going to work out. I love you as a player and as a person, and I was like, there's no reason Geneva should waste her idol this early when the vote is not going to be on her. There's no reason she should waste it on someone other than herself.
Yeah.
So that was another tough thing and I know you kind of thought throughout the week that, oh, Mitch is a snake. He told about my idol. Is that I really held my tongue, and really I didn't want anyone else to know, because I wanted you to get as far as you could with that idol.
Yeah. And even if you didn't, I was still worried about the potential that you could in the future. And so that's why I was like, Mitch might be dangerous for my game. But I was told too that like either way the vote would really be Daisy in the end, even in a revote. But like with what we saw, which I do want to at least get through this and then we can make our comments. But what happened was, you know, Luke, you know, does his whole spiel, you know, we all voted, and Daisy's like a little hesitant to, you know, come up. She's like, do I come up? And he's like, no, you come up with it. She's like, but I want to play this because I want to be safe. You know, her gut's telling her she shouldn't. And I was literally whispering to her the whole tribal, you need to play this idol, because in my head, I thought it was real. I'm like, you need to play this idol. Also, because I was like, I'm not playing this idol. I'm not playing my idol. I don't know if I had my idol with me, so I don't know if I was going to even play it anyway. But I really wanted her to play her idol because I didn't want her to go that time. I was like, well, Mitch will go home. Okay, whatever, you know. But yeah, so she brings it up, you know, and he talks about how, like, you know, if an idol is brought up and it's real, then the votes cast against that person will not count. But he's like, this is not a real idol. All votes for Daisy will count. And she's like, I hate that. And then the votes are read. Daisy, Mitchell, Mitch, I think. And then you were like, you make a joke. You're like, Mitch, like, that's not me. Who's he?
I know. I was desperate at that point. I was like, he read the 3 votes for Daisy, you know, knowing Luke, he's going to read the rest for someone else. And I was like, that's not me. That's someone else, you know. Doing whatever I could. It was dumb, but I was like,
it was funny. And then another Mitchell vote, and then 2 votes left, and then Mitchell, and then Daisy. So it was a tie. But as we knew, Daisy's idol was not real. So it didn't save her, which meant that everyone was basically going to vote out Daisy. So they actually don't show it, but I actually voted Mitch. Two reasons for that. One, I didn't want Daisy to go out feeling like nobody like cared about her, because I generally cared about her and I felt awful that she had to be voted out. Two, I was also a little bit mad at Mitch, so I was like, well, this is a dig at you. Just and I figured also probably for Luke, it would be like interesting to go.
Yeah, it's better for Luke anyway.
Yeah, more entertainment than a unanimous vote. So that happened. So Daisy was voted out at Tribal Council. But yeah, so other thoughts here that you guys have.
First casualty of a fake. Wow. And it wasn't even mine. Yeah. Maybe next week we'll touch on that. But let's just say I do want to give some background. The entire Zeleny tribe, because this tribe will win a little longer, I think, than usual. The entire Zeleny tribe was in my car on the street watching this battle happen. Yeah. And I think, and I don't know if it'll come. I don't know if it'll come up next episode, but it was definitely like watching this on footage for the first time was great because we got to see it live and we're like, what's happening? And then you see Daisy go up, you see her go sit back down, like, and then you see her get voted off, and it's like, what is happening? And we're like, oh my God, no, Andrew looks nervous. Oh wait, no, Mitch is twitching. No, look at that person. It's so funny. It's so funny. Yeah. And then Daisy goes home.
Yeah. And then we see a preview about a swap, but we can't really talk about what actually happens there. But that's very interesting. I think for me and Mitchell, I think this comes at a perfect time considering our circumstances.
I think for all three of us, given the last 4 episodes,
yes.
we are all in need for a swap. So we'll definitely get to see how that plays out. And I think it is interesting. Like people are starting to get painted certain things. So I mean, we saw that get Daisy voted out, right? People assumed she was the snake. They assumed she had an idol. She got voted out for it. People thought Nassan was easy. You got voted out for it. And then we see, like Mitchell, we see you give votes because people think you're shady. And it's like, where did that come from? What?
Yeah, where did that rumor come from?
I wonder where.
I wonder.
I couldn't be the other. But at the same time, you're like a loyal ally, right? You knowingly keep Geneva's idol a secret for the time being. And right? And you're like, I'm not going to have her play this for me, right? You could be going home, but you don't ask her to play it for you. You know what? I'm going to let Geneva, it's best that she keeps it for herself. And that's a very heroic.
Yes. Thank you for being selfless. I really appreciate that.
Right? Because not a lot of people are playing like that in this game for anyone else but themselves so far. So that'll be interesting to see develop. Jack is getting painted as, I think we're seeing more of that. We're seeing more, I think the recap talked about how they view Eli, Andrew, and Jack as like a trio. So people are getting reputations, and obviously you got to see everyone knows something about me. So they're talking like I'm in everybody's mouths. So that's fun.
Yep. And I think like before this, I think we might have had a conversation, Hannah, and you're like, oh, I feel like a swap is coming and you'll have some female friends to hang out with and we work together. So, I mean, I don't know how much that comes into play in the next episode at all or not, but I just figured that was an interesting preface. So seeing that there's a swap is potential of something, but I don't know because we don't
more extra for viewers at this point in the game. I was talking to Mitch from week 1 from the other tribe. I texted Geneva. Daisy and Addie were communicating a bit, and then I started talking, I think, to Jack this week. And so I don't know if all of those will be brought up, but like this is week 3 and 4 is where the inter-tribe like communication really picks up. And like Geneva's like, oh, who's that girl, Hannah? What? Why is she texting you? The tribe swap hasn't happened yet. Calm the fuck down.
It was funny because I think, like you said, we had been talking since week 1, and I vaguely remember something being said between the two of us about working together in a future swap if I made it past that week. And I don't know if that was exactly it, or it might have been the first week, the Nassan vote. But I remember that you and I had talked about like, if you get past, you know, like we'll work to like maybe we can work together, figure something out. And I remember just being, that's just further, you know, confirmation that I need to be aware of what's going on and be skeptical about, you know, just honestly everything everyone said, because there was no guarantee of making it to the next week. And that's just how Survivor goes. But I definitely think it was interesting, you know, the conversations and knowing who was talking to who. And I had known about Daisy talking to Addie, and I had heard about you, Hannah, talking to just other people in general and being a super fan like Jack. Right. And it was just like interesting, especially because from my perspective, no one wanted to talk to me other than, you know, the two of you, Daisy and Nassan at that point. Just like, you know, I have extremely limited options.
Great thing about
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm behind. So if I weird times. I think the great thing about you is that week 1, you're like, here's my number. And that is nice to have somebody else reaching out to you. With Geneva in these first few weeks, which I can say because we haven't, you know, I'm not spoiling anything from the next episode, but Geneva, I had to pull her teeth to talk to her. I'm like, hi, I enjoyed meeting you at the meet and greet. You're cool. Let's talk. And she was very, very diplomatic, very political. That is like Geneva's game. Geneva takes her time. She's a smart player. And while Mitch, I was like, haha, don't vote me out. And we're like playing each other and trying to, you know, I'm trying to lead you to a fake. I check, the fake's not there. You're like, ha ha ha, Nassan totally has the idol. And I know like Geneva has an idol and this bitch knows shit. Yeah.
I think it was
totally.
Yeah, it was definitely, it was interesting, especially like after the fact is I learned a little bit more insight from Luke himself about, and to see, you know, about that kind of interactions between the two of us where we're like, oh, like, let's go idol hunting, when I know that the idol isn't there and you have a fake idol somewhere around there. And it's just kind of like, it just makes me chuckle, you know, because, you know, while I genuinely wanted to work with you, and I believe that you wanted to work with me to some extent, it was just funny that, you know, we both were trying to play the game and try to, you know, get a leg up on each other and just kind of like figure out how it could work. And I know I talked to you and I talked to Aaron too. And so I'm not gonna lie, that first vote, no, like figuring that out afterwards, it was like heartbreaking. Like Nassan was probably the most heartbreaking vote of them all. Daisy was a close second, but it was a less so of the most because, you know, it was either me or her, so I was like, eh.
It was you or her, so it's like, okay, well.
Right, Nassan hurt a lot, but that first vote of Aaron, and I was like, wow, because, you know, they saw it in the first episode, me and him last picked, and we were just kind of like shook hands and we're like, here we go, final 2, you know, just kind of a joke. But I genuinely, like, at that moment in time, I was like, we're not at the top of anyone's game. Like, you know, we got to work with each other. And first to go home the first week was just like, yeah, for him to go week, I was like, wow, like if he was last on that tribe to get picked and he's out, I was last on my tribe, why wouldn't I be the first one out as well? It was tough. It was tough.
Yeah. No, I feel that.
Yeah, I will say there are definitely decisions I think we all look back on and we go, that was fun then. Don't know if I do it again.
And that's the game of Survivor, you know.
Yep. Well, this was a fabulous recap. I want to thank Mitchell so much for joining us tonight. And if you want to join us in the future, you are more than welcome to. We are doing this every week. So we love having your insight. It was great to hear because I think you actually had a lot of interesting perspective that either we didn't really see in this episode or more of the backstory between a lot of stuff between you and Jack and just the vote, because you almost could have gone home, which is what's crazy. If you didn't vote Daisy, you would have more votes on you. And so that's insane.
And I remember telling my friends, like my roommate and my friends this after the fact, like I was this close to just driving myself, going to tribal, I had no other plan other than Eli, so for that to happen just kind of goes to show like how interesting the collared Survivor game is, like that would never happen in real Survivor, like you just have a name and you go for it. You don't get to get in a car with 3 people who you're not sure about and get that information. So
random and last minute is because if they hadn't texted you or you hadn't sat next to Jack at Tribal, like you could have gone and Daisy could have, and now to see how you and Geneva on the foreseeable bottom of this 5 are going into a tribe swap. That's huge. And it's
huge.
It's next week is huge.
Absolutely. And then be sure to follow Syrvivor Syracuse on Twitter for more updates there. Instagram, we get those episode takeaways every week and Meme Mondays, which are always exciting. And you can also follow Hannah on Twitter. I don't know if you have anything to plug, Mitchell, or if not.
You can follow my Instagram if you want. I don't really care.
Okay.
That's all I got to plug. Other than that, just keep watching Survivor Syracuse.
Yes. And be sure to like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe to my channel. And you can follow me, Twitter, IG, YouTube. And Anna and I will continue doing this and bringing on more fun guests, and including Mitchell. Mitchell wants to come back. And
make sure to tune in Sunday for some bonus footage. I do, knowing what it is, I think it'll be a nice recap for the game so far, and kind of setting up what we're looking at going into next Thursday.
Yes. So
exciting. And just to cap off my time, I just want to thank the both of you for inviting me to be on this show. This was awesome. The 2 of you are amazing. Obviously, I loved playing with the both of you. And this is fun. This is so fun. I really hope I get to come back and do another one of these.
Absolutely. Because you have
so much that isn't in the episodes, and not all of it is relevant, but I think some of it is, like I was saying, like the car,
that's important, but no one knows that's why you voted for Daisy. So I think, it's great to have the player perspective sometimes in there.
Yeah.
So you 2 are amazing for doing this show. And thank you for having me. This was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate having you as a guest. And thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And we hope to see you next week and continue to watch Survivor Syracuse Season 2, Snakes and Secrets. Bye, everybody.